I'd like to share with you some facts that will help you understand why you should use the newspaper. Here are a couple of studies for you to take a look at. This chart shows the results of a study done by Dr. Barbara Palmer of Florida State University in 1989. The top half of the chart shows the results of middle school 8th graders in reading vocabulary and reading comprehension. There were 3 groups in this study. One group that used newspapers actively, where the teacher actively instructed using newspapers. One where the teacher did instruction and the newspapers were just handed to the students and nothing was done with them. And then one group who received no newspapers at all. If you look at the gain in the reading vocabulary under the active with newspaper use, the gain was 5.8. The passive group was 4.5 gain, and the control group where no newspapers were used was 4.0. In reading comprehension, the active group 4.9, passive group 3.2, and the control group with no newspapers minus 0.6. I think you can see the trend. For the high schoolers, it was very similar. In reading vocabulary, it went from 8.8 to 6.2 to 0.8 for the vocabulary, and in reading comprehension, it was 14.9, 4.6, and minus 15.3. In the areas of both reading vocabulary and reading comprehension, the students in the study whose teachers actively used newspapers gained more than those whose teachers just made the newspapers available. However, students in both active and passive groups outperformed those in the control group, where the newspapers were not used or available. This chart shows the writing performance gains in the same study. The chart above shows that at the middle school level over time, the use of newspapers, both in the active and passive groups, consistently produced greater gains in writing performance than no use of newspapers, with dramatic gains in the active group from writing sample 2 to 3. The active group exceeded the passive group, and the passive group exceeded the control group at the middle level. Most importantly, as the treatment time increased, so did the gains in writing performance. This final graphic talks about the findings, the recent findings, 2002, of the Newspaper Association of America, the NAA study. It was published in a document called Measuring Success. The 2 major findings in this were NIE programs clearly work for immigrants and students from non-English speaking homes, and the greatest benefits were found in schools with large minority populations. Now let me express the power of the press in another way. How many of you think that your students would gain in skills and knowledge if you could get them to read a paperback book like this, of a subject of your choice? Now, how many of you think you actually could get a 4th or 5th or 6th grader to read a book like this? Let me show you how easy it is. This book, this paperback book, is merely our Sunday news journal cut into paperback book size. It contains about 800 pages. That's 300,000 words. Now, certainly they're not going to read every page in it, but what if they read a half of it, or a quarter, or even a tenth of it? That is truly the power of the newspaper.